Hi everyone, welcome again to the continuation of the series of lectures in civil procedure. We now continue with one of the provisional remedies provided under Rule 60, which is replevin. Um, a replevin is an action which is primarily intended to recover possession of personal property. It is provisional in nature because it is ancillary to the main action, meaning pending the main suit or the main action, you can ask for the provisional remedy of replevin to take possession of personal property pending the action. So just like an injunction, replevin is a main action as well as a provisional remedy. So how do you apply for replevin? Section 1 of Rule 60 provides that a party praying for the recovery of possession of personal property may, at the commencement of the action or at any time before the answer, apply for an order for the delivery of the property to him. So, meaning you can apply for replevin even before the answer is received by the court. So from the time of the filing or at any time before the answer. Now, what are the requirements before you can be granted the writ of replevin? Okay, first, there must be an affidavit showing the following facts: that the applicant is the owner of the property or he is entitled to the possession of such property. The property is a personal property. So either you are the owner or you are the person entitled to the possession. Okay? Why? Because if you are the owner, you are entitled to the possession of the property. Okay? That the proper second, that the property is wrongfully detained by the adverse party, alleging the cause of detention according to the best of his knowledge, information, and belief. So your right is violated because even though you are the owner and you are entitled to the possession of the personal property, someone is in possession there. Okay, and therefore, the possession of another person violated your right. Okay, and third, that the property has not been distrained or taken for tax assessment or a fine pursuant to law or seized under a writ of execution or preliminary attachment or otherwise placed under custodial levy. So if a property is already in the custody of the law, you can no longer issue a writ of replevin to seize and take possession of the said property. And last, you must also allege the actual market value of the property. So if you want to apply for a writ of replevin, you have to file an affidavit alleging these facts and file a bond, post a bond. Okay? It is a bond intended to answer for all the damages that may have been caused to the defendant by reason of the issuance of the writ. Now, how much is the bond? It is double the value of the property. That is the reason why you have to assess, you have to allege in your affidavit the actual market value of the property because the bond that you will post is double the value of that property. Okay, upon the filing of the affidavit and approval of the bond, the court shall issue the corresponding writ describing the property and requiring the sheriff to take the property in custody. Now, the sheriff has the duty to serve a copy of the writ together with the copy of the application, affidavit, and bond, and to the person in possession of the property. And he must seize or take possession of the property. Um, how do you discharge a writ of replevin? Okay. Now, if the adverse party objects to the sufficiency of the applicant's bond or of the surety, he cannot immediately require the return of the property, but if he does not so, he may at any time before the delivery of the property to the applicant require the return by filing with the court where the action is pending a bond executed to the applicant in double the value of the property. So you have to file a counter bond. So once a writ of replevin together with the application and the bond is served on the person in possession of the property, if you want to object to the sufficiency of the bond, you can do so. You file a motion to quash the writ of replevin and post a counter bond. Now, after taking the property, is the sheriff obliged to deliver the property to the applicant or to the plaintiff? The answer is no. He has to keep the property for a period of 5 days. What is the purpose of this 5-day period? So that the person from whose possession the property was taken can take the appropriate legal remedy. Like, for example, the filing of a motion to quash, the posting of a counter bond. Okay. In proceedings for a plebin, we also have what is known as terceria. Terceria is one wherein the property is in the possession of a third person who is not a party to the action. Section 7 of Rule 60 provides that if the property is claimed by a person other than the party against whom the writ of replevin was issued, um, such person should make an affidavit of his title or the right to the possession stating the grounds and serve such affidavit upon the sheriff while the latter has possession of the property and a copy thereof upon the applicant. The sheriff shall not be bound to keep the property under replevin or deliver it to the applicant unless the applicant or his agent on demand of the sheriff shall file a bond approved by the court to indemnify the third-party claimant in a sum not less than the value of the property under replevin. So, the terceria comes into the picture when there is a person who has possession of the property but he is not the person against whom the writ was issued. So in such a case, how does this third person who is not a party to the replevin suit protect his right? He must execute an affidavit stating his right or title to the property, serve it upon the sheriff, and post a bond equivalent to the actual value of the property. It is not double the value, ha? Unlike in the requirement for the plaintiff as well as the requirement for the defendant against whom the writ is issued. So when the writ of replevin is issued in favor of the republic, meaning the state, or any officer duly representing it, the filing of the bond will not be required. Okay? After trial of the issues, the court shall determine was the right to possession and the value of the property and shall render judgment in the alternative for the delivery to the party entitled to the same or for its value in case the delivery cannot be made, and also for damages as either party may prove. Again, replevin is an action for the recovery of personal property. It is both a principal remedy and a provisional relief. It's like an injunction. It is the main action as well as a provisional remedy for the main action. When utilized as a principal remedy, the objective is to recover possession of personal property wrongfully detained by another. When sought as provisional relief, it allows the plaintiff to retain the contested property during the pendency of the action. So replevin is essentially a possessory action. Okay? Who is entitled to the possession of a personal property? When we speak of possession, it does not necessarily require that the applicant must be the owner. It can be a person who is entitled to the possession of the property. For example, if you are leasing a personal property and under the contract of lease, you are entitled to the possession thereof. So if that is the case, then you can apply for a writ of replevin even though you are not the owner of the property. When the defendant obtained a loan secured by a chattel mortgage over a motor vehicle and he failed to pay the loan, okay, the plaintiff may file an action to seek recovery of the mortgage property through a writ of replevin with alternative prayer for the collection of the amount of the loan. The purpose of seeking recovery of the mortgage property is to foreclose the chattel mortgage and to have the property sold so that the proceeds may be applied for the payment of the loan. Okay, we now go to the cases on replevin. We have the case of Enriquez versus Mercantile Insurance. Okay, in Enriquez, the Supreme Court said that the term replevin is popularly understood as the return to or recovery by a person of goods or chattels claimed to be wrongfully taken or detained upon the persons giving as security. Again, the Supreme Court stated that it is primarily possessory in nature and generally determines nothing more than the right of possession. So the party seeking the issuance of the writ must file the affidavit and the bond, equivalent to double the value of the property. So in this case, Petitioner Enriquez filed a replevin case against Asuten, okay, for a Toyota Hiace van valued at 300,000. She applied for a bond in the amount of 600,000. The RTC approved the bond and ordered the sheriff to recover the bond from Asuten. While the bond was in the petitioner's custody, the RTC dismissed the case without prejudice for failure to prosecute. Thus, it ordered the sheriff to restore the bond to Asuten. When petitioner failed to produce the bond, the RTC directed respondent to pay Asuten the amount of the bond. There was no trial on the merits. The RTC's dismissal for failure to prosecute was a dismissal without prejudice to refiling. In this instance, any writ of seizure being merely ancillary to the main action becomes punctus officio. The parties return to the status quo as if no case for replevin had been filed. Thus, upon dismissal of the case, it was imperative for the petitioner to return the bond. So you must remember that replevin as a provisional remedy is ancillary to the main action. So once the main action has been dismissed, the provisional remedy will have no leg to stand on. So as a matter of law, it is automatically terminated, the provisional remedy of replevin. So upon the dismissal of the replevin, the writ of seizure, which is merely ancillary, became punctus officio and should have been lifted. Okay? The bond of all the provisional remedies, only Rule 60 provides that the amount of the bond should be double the value of the property. Why? The bond functions not only to indemnify the defendant in case of loss of the property, but also to answer for damages. A replevin bond is intended to indemnify the defendant against any loss that he may suffer by reason of its being compelled to surrender the possession of the property pending trial of the action. Okay? But however, there must be a prior judgment on the merits before there can be any application on the. Okay, we now go to the case of Agner versus BPI family. Okay. In the case of Agner, the Supreme Court said that prior demand is not a condition precedent to an action for replevin, since there is nothing in Section 2 that requires the applicant to make a demand before an action for replevin could be filed. So there are only two requirements: the filing of the affidavit and the posting of the bond, double the value of the property. The vehicle subject matter of this case was never recovered and delivered to the respondent, despite the issuance of the writ. As there was no seizure that transpired, it cannot be said that petitioners were deprived of the use and enjoyment of the vehicle. The trial court, therefore, rightfully granted the alternative prayer for a sum of money which is equivalent to the remedy of exacting fulfillment of the obligation. There is no double recovery or unjust enrichment to speak. Okay, again, we reiterate the requirements for the issuance of a writ of replevin. First, the applicant must show that he is either the owner or the lawful possessor of the property, that the property is being wrongfully detained by another person, that the property has not been placed in custodia legis, has not been taken for tax assessment, writ of execution, or preliminary attachment. You must also allege the actual value of the property, and you must post a bond equivalent to double the value of the property. Service of the writ of replevin is mandatory to comply with the due process and as a safeguard on unreasonable search and seizures. So you must serve to the respondent not only the writ but also the application as well as the copy of the bond. Okay? After the sheriff has seized the property, it should not be immediately delivered to the applicant. Okay? The sheriff must keep the property for a period of 5 days before the applicant can take possession thereof. It does not matter if the sheriff merely turned over the possession of the property to the plaintiff for safekeeping. So it is required that the sheriff must keep the property for a period of 5 days to give the defendant the opportunity to seek the appropriate legal remedies. Now, what are the remedies available to the defendant to reacquire the seized property? First, the defendant can object to the sufficiency of the bond. And second, the defendant must file a counter bond or redelivery bond equal to the amount of the replevin bond within the 5-day period from the seizure by the sheriff. You must remember that the filing of the counter bond and the option to object to the sufficiency of the replevin bond are alternative remedies. So you cannot avail of both. So you either object to the sufficiency of the bond or you file a counter bond, because the counter bond that you will file is equivalent to the amount of the replevin bond that was posted by the plaintiff. The writ of replevin must be served on the defendant or the person authorized to receive court processes. Okay, we have the case of Rivera versus Vargas. The issue in this case is the effect of a writ of replevin that has been improperly served. Okay? The process regarding the execution of the writ of replevin is clear. The sheriff, upon receipt of the writ and prior to the taking of the property, must serve a copy to the adverse party together with the application, the affidavit of merit, and the replevin bond. What is the reason to provide proper notice that his property is being seized in accordance with the court's order and to allow the adverse party to take the proper remedy. Service of the writ upon the adverse party is mandatory. If the writ was not served, but was instead merely handed to a person who is neither an agent of the adverse party nor a person authorized to receive court processes on his behalf, the service is erroneous and therefore invalid. So in this case, petitioner avers that the writ of replevin was served upon the security guard, where the rock crushing plan to be seized was located. The sheriff's return, however, states that both the writ and the summons were served upon Rivera. But since the writ was invalidly served, petitioner is correct in contending that there is no reckoning point from which the mandatory 5-day period will commence. The writ must also satisfy proper service to be valid. It should be directed to the officer who is authorized to serve it, and it should be served upon the person who not only has possession, but who is also a party or agent of a party to the action. The petitioner's proper remedy should have been to file a motion to quash or a motion to vacate the order of seizure. Petitioner's filing of an application for redelivery bond, while not necessary, did not thereby waive her right to question the improper service. So it now becomes imperative for the trial court to restore the parties to their former positions by returning the seized property to petitioner and by discharging the replevin bond filed by the respondent. So by jurisprudence, aside from objecting to the sufficiency of the bond or posting a counter bond or redelivery bond, you also have the option of quashing the writ of replevin on the ground that the writ, the application, the affidavit of merit, and the bond were improperly served or improper service of the writ. Okay? We now go to the case of Howe versus Andres. The rules provide that the property seized under a writ of replevin should not be delivered immediately to the plaintiff. There is a need to wait for a period of 5 days in order to give the defendant an opportunity to object to the sufficiency of the bond. Okay? So in this case, Silver received from Andres 6 of the seized vehicles and 3 more vehicles. Consequently, there is no question that Silver was already in possession of the seized vehicles immediately after seizure or no more than 3 days after the taking of the vehicle. It matters not that Silver was in possession of the vehicles merely for safekeeping. The rule is clear that the property seized should not be immediately delivered to the plaintiff, and the sheriff must retain custody of the property for at least 5 days. The act of Andres in delivering the seized vehicles immediately after seizure for whatever purpose without observing the 5-day requirement finds no legal justification. Okay? We now go to the third party claim or what we call terceria. What is terceria? If the property taken is claimed by any person other than the party against whom the writ of replevin was issued or his agent, such person must make an affidavit of his title or right to possession stating the grounds and serve such affidavit upon the sheriff while the latter has possession of the property and a copy thereof to the applicant. The sheriff shall not be bound to keep the property under replevin or deliver it to the applicant. Also, there is a need to file an indemnity bond approved by the court to indemnify the third-party claimant in a sum not less than the value of the property under replevin. Okay, so in terceria, how do you discharge a writ of replevin if a person who is not a party to the case okay, wants to discharge the writ of replevin and claim the delivery of the property, he must execute an affidavit, okay, and post a bond in an amount equivalent to the actual value of the property, and he must file it within the period of 5 days when the property is still in the possession of the sheriff. Okay. After 5 days from the taking, the sheriff shall deliver the property to the applicant. Okay. We have the case of Advent Capital versus Young. So in this case, the issue is whether the CA committed error in directing the return of the seized car to Young and ordering the trial court to set a hearing for the determination of damages against the replevin bond. Okay, in the Supreme Court held that it agreed with the Court of Appeals in directing the trial court to return the seized car to Young, since this is the necessary consequence of the dismissal of the Replevin case for failure to prosecute without prejudice. Upon the dismissal of the Replevin, the writ of seizure, which is merely ancillary, became punctus officio. So to let the writ of seizure stand after the dismissal of the complaint would be adjudging Advent as the prevailing party when precisely no decision on the merits had been rendered. Accordingly, the parties must be reverted to their status quo ante. Oh, in this case, there was no application for damages against Stronghold resulting from the issuance of the writ of seizure before the finality of the dismissal of the complaint for failure to prosecute. It appears that Young filed his motion claiming damages against Stronghold after the dismissal order issued by the court had attained finality. The court held that the defendant was precluded from claiming damages against the surety bond since the defendant failed to file the application for damages before the termination of the case. Okay? Next case is BA Finance versus Court of Appeals. So to secure the payment of a loan, the manahan spouses executed the deed of chattel mortgage over a car in favor of car masters. Now, because of default in the payment of the loan, car masters filed a suit for replevin with damages. Upon the filing of a bond, the trial court issued the writ of replevin. The court, however, cautioned the applicant that if the summons is not served within 30 days from the writ's issuance, the case would be dismissed for failure to prosecute. So the summons was received by Reyes as well as the order of seizure. However, the court dismissed the case for failure to serve the summons on the defendant, which is the spouse's manahan. The court has not acquired jurisdiction over the principal defendants because they served the summons to Reyes, which is only an ancillary debtor. The petitioner insists that a mortgagee can maintain an action for replevin against any possessor, even if the latter were not a party to the mortgage. The action of replevin is primarily possessory. Replevin is described as a mixed action. It is both an action in rem and in persona. It is partly in rem and in persona. It's partly in rem because the replevin action is the right of the plaintiff to obtain possession of a specific personal property. Okay? Consequently, the person in possession of the property is ordinarily the proper and only necessary party dependent. And the plaintiff is not required to join as dependents other persons claiming a right on the property but not in possession of the property. Rule 60 allows an application for the immediate possession of the property, but the plaintiff must show that he has a legal basis, meaning clear title to the property. Accordingly, that the defendant is not privy to the chattel mortgage should be inconsequential. By the fact that the object of the replevin is traced to his possession, one properly can be a defendant in an action for replevin. So whoever has possession of the property can be a defendant, or can be the can properly be served with a writ of seizure, even though he is not the um, principal dependent. In case the right of possession on the part of the plaintiff or his authority to such possession or that of his principal is put to a great doubt. So if there is doubt as to the right of possession, it could become essential to have other persons involved and impleaded for a complete determination of the case. An adverse possessor who is not the mortgagor cannot just be deprived of his possession, let alone be bound by the terms of the chattel mortgage, simply because the mortgagee brings up an action for replevin. We have the case of Allied Leasing and Finance versus CA. So in this case, Allied filed a complaint for sum of money with application for the issuance of the writ of replevin against the spouses SIA. Allied leased to SIA several printing equipment on the condition that if SIA fails to pay monthly rentals, all amounts due shall become demandable. SIA defaulted in the payment of monthly rentals and was unable to pay despite demand. Now, the trial court issued the writ of replevin, but SIA filed a motion to quash the writ, claiming ownership of the printing equipment. They alleged that the lease agreements did not reflect the true agreement of the parties. The trial court issued an order granting the quashal of the writ on the finding that the real and true nature of the transaction, whether it was really a lease or a chattel mortgage. The trial court used this dark cloud of doubt should as a ground for the quashal of the writ. Allied questioned the quashal on the ground that it is without the necessary counterbond. The record shows that SIA never offered the counter bond, and neither did the trial court demand one before quashing the writ of replevin. There was therefore a patent abuse of discretion on the part of the trial court. Remember, there are two alternative remedies for dissolving a writ of replevin. First is you object to the sufficiency of the bond, or you file a counter bond equivalent to the value of the bond posted by the applicant. Okay, the applicant who seeks the immediate possession of the property need not be the holder of the legal title. It is sufficient that he is entitled to possession. And therefore, the Supreme Court concluded that the trial court committed grave abuse of discretion in quashing the writ without the mandatory counter bond as provided in the rules of court. Okay, we now go to the case of Kalu versus Court of Appeals. In this case, a vehicle which is loaded with forest products was apprehended by elements of the Philippine Army. Now, they were charged for violation of Section 68 of Presidential Decree 705. Now, one of the owner of the vehicle filed a complaint for the recovery of the impounded vehicles with an application for replevin against the petitioner. However, the court ruled that since there was a violation of the revised forestry code and the seizure was in accordance with law, the subject vehicles were validly deemed in custodia legis. It could not be subject to an action for replevin. Remember that when you apply for replevin, you have to allege that the property being sought to be seized is not under custodia legis. If it is in custodia legis, it cannot be the subject of the writ of replevin. So that's all for Replevin. Thank you for listening.